Hello and welcome into this week's edition of the Rookie Stripes podcast here on Racing News Now. I'm Garth. That's Tyler. How are we doing today?
Yeah, not a lot. Just waiting to go to work.
I hear that. Not the going to work part. I'm on my days off today, but yeah, it's been a wild ride today. Home ownership is a beautiful thing. Between the washer going out and now you might be able to hear the smoke alarm chirping in the background that just started within the last couple minutes. So it's one of those days.
Hey, nightmares are dreams too.
That's right. I don't understand why home ownership is a dream. Now that I'm in it, I really don't understand it. I don't know why anybody aspires for this. I really don't. If you're looking at buying a house right now, don't do it. Just don't.
Hey, but then at least you own something and you have equity and you can sell it later and all that kind of good stuff.
That's true, but if you pay all your equity in repairs and new things and things like that, what's the point in the equity?
Welcome to 2024 economics.
Yeah, right? It's wonderful. Anyway, we had some racing this weekend. We had Vegas, 3 races from Vegas, as well as the F1 season opener from Bahrain. We'll start off with the Truck Series from Vegas. Not a lot happening in that race other than a little bit of pit strategy at the end that actually trapped Kyle Busch and some of the other fast trucks a lap down. But we still had one of the faster trucks in the race going to victory lane. It did still feel deserved. And Rajah Caruth comes away with his first career victory. I have stayed away from social media, specifically Zitter. I don't really get on Zitter that much anymore anyway, but I can only imagine what Zitter looked like Friday night.
It actually didn't look that bad. I didn't see anything that derogatory, but I don't follow people that would say that kind of stuff. So it didn't look like Bubba Wallace's first win, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, that's good. Maybe all the people that said they were going to leave when Bubba first won actually left, so then they're not around to complain now.
That'd be nice.
Right? Wishful thinking, probably, but... Or maybe it's because it's a truck race and those people don't pay attention to the Truck Series because they're fair weather fans anyway.
Pretty much. Fair weather fans and Bubba Wallace bad.
Yeah. It's an interesting time to be a NASCAR fan. But yeah, really good to see Rajah Caruth win. He's a good dude. Got to know him a little bit when he was in ARCA. Really good kid. Really deserves any success that comes his way. The kid's got talent. He just needs the right equipment and the right people behind him. And I think he's finally got that this year at Spire. So I don't think that's going to be the last one we see out of him this year. He might even be a championship 4 contender now that he's got the win out of the way. I don't know what the rest of the season is going to look like, but now that he's got one win, I could see more coming, and I could see a very strong season out of him. I mean, he started the season really well even before that, so I see a very bright season ahead for Rajah Caruth.
Yeah, he's impressed me. Even last year, some of the racecraft he was showing, he never really got the results together, but so far this year that's been a little different. The only thing I don't like about Rajah Caruth is Michael Waltrip saying his name. Pisses me off.
Oh, how he says Rajah?
Yeah, I almost muted Truck Race, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting close to the point where I had to mute that.
Mikey would be the sole reason to mute the truck broadcast. Like I can get by with Jamie Little and Phil Parsons, but Mikey just gets on my nerve from the first moment of the broadcast. Like I really just cannot stand that character that Mikey plays when he's on TV.
No, not anymore. It was funny when I was a kid and watching like the Cup Series and he'd do his grid walks or whatever, but not anymore. I can't deal with it.
I've never liked his grid walks. His grid walks have never been serious. They've never been informative. It's just him walking around being an idiot, saying stupid things to drivers, dropping a taco on Denny's car or whatever else stupid stuff that he might do. Like, his grid walks have never been added anything for me. Like,
No.
they're nothing like what a Chris Economaki grid walk was back in the day. Like, bring those back. Bring a serious grid walk back where you're seriously talking to these drivers and actually trying to get a feel for what these drivers are feeling down on the grid before the race, not going around being an idiot, saying stupid things, dropping tacos on cars. Like, nobody wants to see that.
Between Mikey's grid walks and the F1 ones, it's like, just stop doing grid walks.
It's been a while since I've seen an F1 grid walk, but I seem to remember they're at least better than Mikey's.
Who was it? Brundle that does the F1 ones?
I think so.
Yeah, like for the past couple of years, it's just been a whole bunch of famous rich people on the grid, and they just don't really like. He can't even get to the drivers because it's F1 and the fan accessibility is zero. So then he's just trying to talk to these rich people that don't care to be there in the first place. It's like, who do you think is going to win today? And they're like, Oscar Piastri, and you're like, no, he won't.
Yeah.
But the only like grid walk thing that I actually appreciate anymore is like really the whole production for the beginning of the Indy 500, where they do all the ceremonial and then they actually like talk to some of the drivers. I think they try to talk to most of them, like 20 out of 33, something like that. But that one's actually done well, but that's because it's the Indy 500. It's not just another race.
Right. Yeah, it's nice when something is well put together like that, because it doesn't seem like grid walks are anymore.
Or TV production in general.
Yeah, right. That's basically all I've got for the truck race, other than Tyler Ankrum has been surprisingly fast to start this season. I don't know where that has come from, but I see a win right around the corner for him because he's been top 5 fast every race. I mean, he's been on par with Christian Eckes' speed for the start of this season, if not a little faster. They're in the same equipment, so, I mean, you would expect if he's on the same talent level, he would be close to Eckes' speed, but I wasn't sure he was on that talent level before this season, so good to see that, though. Ankrum's a good kid, so nice to see him having some speed early on here. Truck points after this race, I extend my lead just a little bit over Tyler with my Eckes pick this week. He didn't win, but with a solid top 10 finish, extends my lead to 12 points over Tyler. Probably shouldn't have been that way because KFB was going to be top 3 at the very worst in this race. So realistically, Tyler should have caught up in this race. And unfortunately, the late pit strategy kind of ruined that. But it is what it is. Such is the way of racing. How's your picks looking after this race? Are you there with us? Are you ahead of us? Are you falling behind us? You're probably ahead of us. You're probably ahead of both of us, to be honest.
Probably.
But, especially Tyler. But
hey.
I think that'll do it for trucks. So on to Xfinity. Not a lot happening there either. John Hunter Nemechek wins again. Woo. Glad to see he's back in Xfinity. If you can't tell the sarcasm there. It's been real great having John Hunter Nemechek back in Xfinity for the first 3 races. At least it wasn't Austin Hill, though.
Yeah, you don't want to Nemechek and Austin Hill showdown for the entire year again.
No, I'd rather not, but at least he stopped Austin Hill's win streak. I can only imagine what a Austin Hill three-peat to start the season would have looked like.
Probably exactly the same as the other 2.
Probably. The only other note I've got on Xfinity, I mean, it was honestly a very boring race. There really wasn't anything happening in this race. Chandler Smith was fast again, as he was in this race last year. Not quite as close to the win as he was last year at the end, getting passed at the white flag last year by Austin Hill, but did still come home in third. So still a strong run for Chandler Smith this year at Las Vegas. That's about all I got. I don't know if you got anything you want to talk about with Xfinity. There really wasn't anything to talk about. I hate it in Xfinity and trucks. It really wasn't that bad in the Cup Series, but Xfinity and trucks, the package they've got right now is not good there. Huh?
It's rare that happens. I just hate that, like, you've got all of Vegas with, like, you know, how much money there is in Vegas, and they built the most boring, stereotypical NASCAR mile-and-a-half track in the middle of the desert.
Well, see, the thing is, it wasn't always stereotypical. When that track was built, it was mostly flat. It was like 9 degrees of banking or something. It may not have even been 9 degrees. And then they gave it the progressive banking, which under the Gen 4 cars, it wasn't bad with progressive banking. So it's not the track, it's the cars. And honestly, the next gen hasn't been terrible on that track. Like, it's not put together any super memorable races, at least that I can remember, that'll stand out as classics, but they've not been bad races. Xfinity and trucks have been a different story, but I mean, next gen at least has put together watchable races on that track.
Yeah, I mean, that's just because they set that car up to drive on tracks like this, and, you know, they made the product here a little bit better, destroyed the short track racing. I don't know about you, but I would rather have a good race at Bristol or Martinsville than a race at Vegas twice a year. But
I mean, preferably, I'd rather have a good race at all of them, but yes, I would rather have a good race at Bristol or Martinsville, but maybe we're in the minority there, or maybe NASCAR thinks we're in the minority. I don't know.
Oh, well, they got their fan club telling them exactly what they want to know.
See, here's the problem with the fan council. I've seen some of the questions that they put out to the fan council. They're very leading questions. They'll ask the questions in a way that they get the answer that they want to get more often than not, because they'll word it in a way that it sounds like you're answering something different than what you're answering.
Yeah, I've never seen any of them. I've never seen any of those things, so can't say I'm in the know there.
Yeah, it's interesting. The fan council is not all it's hyped up to be. It's just a way for NASCAR to say that the fans want something that they. It's a way for NASCAR to justify doing things that they do, even if the fans don't want it.
Well, the 3 fans that we handpicked from the crowd said that they want it like this, so.
Yeah, exactly. Xfinity picks for this weekend. I very much extend my lead in Xfinity, 129 to 81 now, 48 points. I've got a full race lead over you in Xfinity already after 3 races.
Yep. Sheldon Creed did me dirty.
Sheldon Creed kind of did you dirty this week.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him, but because he was kind of fast.
I'll tell you what happened to him. I picked him.
What? Well, yeah, that could be it. I didn't win, but I didn't have to win with that poor showing from Sheldon Creed. So, yeah, there's that. On to the Cup Series. There was some things happening in the Cup Series. Most notably, very early on, my pick's wheel fell off, and he finished dead last. So it was a good day for me in picks with Cup.
Yeah, okay. You're 1 for 3, all right?
Yeah. Hey, you, as we'll see here momentarily, no, I'm not going to spoil that just yet, but just because I had 1 bad race out of 3 does not mean anything. Either way.
No, Chris Bush's Chris Buescher's car was like a missile going in the wall. Chris Busch, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
Chris Busch, Busch, you know, whatever.
Yeah. See, what's funny is I always have to work on Sundays, and with a 3:30 p.m. start time for a race, and I have to go into work at 3:30. Um, I don't usually get to see the race until like lap 30 at the earliest. I literally turned the race on to see Buescher's car on the tow truck, and I'm like, all right then, good start to the day.
That might as well have been how my other two picks went.
Yeah, well, no, your picks didn't finish dead last. Creed didn't
Yeah,
do well, but he didn't finish dead last.
that's
Buescher literally finished 37th.
it's so sad that we only had 37 cars.
We only had 37 because the 44 showed up, which,
Yeah,
funny
right.
enough, I saw a tweet that the 44 team couldn't even buy new tires. They ran on scuffed tires for the entire race, the entire time they were in the race. They borrowed a set of scuffed tires from another team to start the race, and then they changed to their scuffed tires from like practice or qualifying or something. And yeah, they were never on new tires. They couldn't afford to buy new tires.
See, that's just sad. That should be like included in your entry that you just get tires for
Mm-hmm.
the race. Like
It
you
should.
shouldn't have to go buy your own tires. That should be a NASCAR supplied thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Well, see,
stupid.
that's always been a thing though. The teams all the way back to the early days have always had to buy tires and fuel. And I mean, that's not just a cup thing. That's at every level of stock car racing down to late models and I'm assuming below that. I'm not super familiar with below late models, but I'm assuming it's a thing below that too. But I mean, late models, ARCA, trucks, Xfinity, you got to buy your fuel and your tires. It's not supplied by NASCAR, never has been.
I don't know. I just feel like if there's a NASCAR tire that you're supposed to have, these Goodyear tires that are the same compound for every team, that should be supplied by NASCAR. Otherwise, bring your own tire. Who cares?
Right. Well, and see, I can understand having to buy your own tires like back in the late 80s when they were having the tire war between Goodyear and Hoosier and the teams
Yeah.
were picking which tire to be on and they were choosing it week to week which tire they wanted to race on. That I can understand going to Goodyear or Hoosier and buying tires from them. But when there's one specific tire manufacturer, NASCAR won't let any other tire manufacturers in. Yeah, I see your point here of it really just should be provided.
Yeah, I mean, if you want people to pay for their own tires, let them choose what tire they're getting. Let them choose the compound that they want from Goodyear or what brand that they want. I mean, that'd be
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Bring back the F1 style tire wars. Yeah, that'd be neat. It
Yeah,
would
no, I
probably
agree.
suck, but
You
it,
know,
it would
I had
probably
never
suck.
actually thought about that, but yeah, I think that's a good point. I had never thought about that before, but yeah, that probably really should be included by NASCAR, both tires and fuel. Because if there's one supplier and NASCAR sets this is the supplier and we can't have any others, then there's no reason NASCAR shouldn't be supplying it for the teams.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of question we want on a fan council.
Yeah, right. Oh, um, Corey LaJoy was actually surprisingly fast in this race until he wasn't. I mean, we've gotten used to Corey LaJoy being fast on the drafting tracks, Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta. We've gotten used to him being fast there and being a contender for the win. But I mean, early in this race, for probably the first half or so of the race, he was legit top five on speed and hanging up there. Now he had started to fall back later in the race and then ended up having a spin late that put him back lower in the field than he probably should have been. But I mean, early first half of the race, I mean, he was super fast. So, and Carson Hocevar wasn't far off of him either. I think Carson Hocevar was just outside the top 10 a lot of the day too. So, Spire really seems to have stepped up their game this year.
Isn't Spire aligned with Hendrick? Is that right?
I don't. They are in the Truck Series. I don't know if they are in the Cup Series. I feel like they're not, other than having engines provided by Hendrick. I don't think they're aligned in any other way with Hendrick in the Cup Series. I might be wrong on that.
I don't know. The Chevys have been surprisingly fast this year. I thought with the new body styles for the Toyotas and Fords that they would like fall off a lot, but we've only had 3 races this year, and all 3 have been won by Chevys. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that partially has to do with Chevy has their existing body style, so they're already used to it and they've worked out the kinks, whereas Ford and Toyota are still working out the kinks for their new body. That could be part of it, and we'll probably see more Ford and Toyota speed later in the season. Speaking of Fords, I'll tell you somebody else I was pleasantly surprised had a lot of speed in this race was Chase Briscoe. He was up in the top 5 a lot of this race too, and I mean, good to see an SHR car with some speed because we haven't seen that in a while.
Kevin Harvick finally left, and then SHR finally decided to show up to races.
Well, they put all the effort they were putting into Harvick into Briscoe now.
Just kind of feels like if Briscoe can get a top 5, Harvick would have won the race by 3 laps.
Yeah, he probably would have.
I will say, though, the end of this race kind of proved that you don't need overtime finishes to have a good end to a race. I really enjoyed seeing Larson and Reddick kind of duke it out at the front and Larson take his line and all that kind of stuff. I enjoy that kind of racing, and it wasn't a manufactured finish. They had like 30-something laps of a sprint to the end. So cars that didn't take off as fast could catch up like we saw with Reddick, and I don't know. It was refreshing to see after having the 2 like maniac finishes we've had the last couple races.
I enjoy it too. The only qualm I have with that finish is it showed that clean air is still king by far in this car, because when Larson took Reddick's line away, which was more of Reddick misjudging where Larson was going to go and pick the wrong line, but when they both picked the same line, that took all the air away from Reddick and screwed up his entire last 2 laps, basically. So that's my only qualm with this is we got a good finish out of it until Reddick picked the wrong line and got the air taken away from him. We really have got to figure out a way to where air blocking is not a thing anymore. I feel like air blocking has ruined more good finishes than anything else in the past 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, with the cars that we've got and the speeds they're going, I don't think you're going to get away from that anymore.
I mean, there's ways to do it because a lot of the reason we got to the point where with the Gen 6 car and even a little bit with the car of tomorrow to where you had that air bubble between the cars was because they sealed the nose off on the ground. You got to get rid of the splitter. The splitter, I think, is the biggest thing and the biggest reason for that. Get rid of the splitter and have some sort of a mandate to where the nose isn't plastered to the ground even without the splitter. Now, getting rid of the splitter might keep that from being an issue on its own, because without the splitter, if you slam the nose all the way to the ground and it's just dragging on the ground, that's probably not going to be good for the nose without the splitter. So getting rid of the splitter might solve that problem on its own, but if it doesn't, there needs to be some sort of regulation to where the nose can't be slammed all the way to the ground, because that is essentially what causes this problem, because the air cannot get under the car, thereby it gets stuck on the nose and pushes you back once you hit that air bubble.
No, I completely agree with you. And you know, like all those classic races that you see where everybody's battling out at the end of the race, nose is off the ground, and they've got more horsepower. Put more horsepower in them. Off throttle time needs to be a thing. You cannot go around these tracks wide open and expect to have good racing. It doesn't work that way.
NASCAR's argument to that would be, look at last week at Atlanta.
I mean, as cool of a finish as that was, I still don't like it. That was a cool picture. I don't like that racing. I mean, I
No,
don't know.
I agree. I'm just saying, playing devil's advocate here, I'm saying that would be NASCAR's response would be, well, look at Atlanta. Atlanta was great.
The like 2 seconds where they were three wide coming to line, that was cool. The rest of the race
Yeah.
was freaking awful. I don't know. I just you got a point with the splitter, get the nose off the ground, put more horsepower, make it so they actually had to drive the car and not just
Mm-hmm.
drive the air. Because basically all they got to do is drive where somebody else isn't, and if you have a fast car, then you're going to win. But
Mm-hmm.
actually being able to drive around people, and this isn't just a NASCAR problem. This is in every motorsport, every form of motorsport in the world right now has a racing etiquette problem where nobody can race
Mm-hmm.
each other because the cars are designed to be away from other cars and just be fast on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know how else you fix that, at least on the NASCAR side, aside from getting rid of the splitter. I mean, the splitter was where all of these problems started. The splitter was introduced with the car of tomorrow. And that's where we started having all of these aero issues. Now, I don't think the splitter has been the only issue since the introduction of the car of tomorrow, but I think it has been the biggest issue, and it will be the biggest help if we were to get rid of it.
Well, it's the only thing that they haven't changed since they put the car tomorrow in. We've had a splitter
Yeah.
ever since then.
Yeah, I think you're right. That would be about the only thing, at least on the exterior of the car, that hasn't changed in some way. That's not like a mandated safety feature that can't change.
Yeah, I mean, with the new cars, they've got like it lifts off the ground a little bit and then comes back down on the edges. So it's like I just hate it because it looks like NASCAR looked at it, said that's a problem. We need to change that, and did it
Mm-hmm.
just enough to make it look like they tried, and then it was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
there we're good.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. They knew the splitter was a problem, but for whatever reason, they didn't want to completely get rid of it. So they make that little hole in the middle and called it a day. And they were like, well, that'll fix it. It hasn't fixed it.
No,
It has maybe slightly remedied the problem. The cars can get a little closer than they could before, but you still have air bubbles. They just may not be as big as they were before.
yeah, I will say it's better than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
It's better
not
than it was with the Gen 6 car. The Gen 6 car was peak air bubble, air blocking, trash racing.
yeah, I mean, it couldn't get any worse than that on these types of tracks, except for Kansas, because Kansas is my mile and a half baby. I love Kansas.
You know, what's funny is Kansas is almost a duplicate of Chicago, and Chicago was great too. And there's a
I
reason
love
for that.
Chicagoland too. I'm still
Mhm.
mad that they don't go to Chicagoland, especially now that I'm only like an hour from the track. Dude, I would
Yeah.
so go to a race there.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back in some way, shape, or form soon. Maybe once the contract is up with the Chicago Street Race and they take the street race somewhere else, maybe they go back to Chicagoland to stay in the market because they've got racing back there now. They've got like a motocross race or something there now, don't they?
No, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they brought a motocross race back this year, and that's the first racing they've had in like 5 years or something.
No, Chicagoland doesn't deserve the hate that it got because of the Gen 6 car.
Absolutely not. I mean, even with the Gen 6 car, Chicago still put on great racing. Like, what was that 2018, the Larson and Bush finish?
The Kyle and
Like,
Kyle show.
yeah, that was an all-time classic finish.
That's
And
like
that
on
was
every
with the Gen
NASCAR
6
YouTube video.
cars.
Yeah, that's on
Huh?
every NASCAR highlight YouTube video that you watch.
Yeah. One of the very few Gen 6 races that sticks out in my mind immediately as a classic. In fact, it may be the only one. I can't think of any other Gen 6 race off the top of my head that I would point to and go, that was a classic.
Yeah, but
So,
Chicagoland bad, I guess.
yeah, right. I don't know why we ever got away from it other than I think initially it was COVID, wasn't it? They took it, was it the 2020 schedule they took it off of because of COVID and then we just never went back?
I thought they said something about not enough people showing up to the race, like they did with every other track like that,
Yeah,
because they killed
which
off
that
that
could have been it too.
Kentucky. I'm not mad about Kentucky. Kentucky
No, I don't
deserved
think
to
anybody's
die.
mad about Kentucky,
Kentucky was cool for IndyCar. That's about it.
except I thought I saw the Kentucky governor or somebody recently was saying that he was going to push to get NASCAR back there for some reason.
See, okay, I don't hate Kentucky. I hate that we do all of
You
these
don't hate
tracks.
Kentucky, the state,
No, Kentucky
is what
State's
you're
pretty
saying.
cool. The track's okay. It's not good, but maybe with this car it'd be all right. But my problem lies in we go to places like Vegas twice a year. There's
Hmm.
no room for Chicagoland and Kentucky on the schedule because it's basically the same track. I mean, they're a little different, but it's the same style of racing. You already go to these tracks multiple times a year. Quit going places multiple times a year. Daytona,
Well,
Talladega, that's it.
the real issue here is they just signed a new contract extension with Vegas to have two races on the schedule through 2031, I think it
Oh
was.
my god. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so there's two races out of the year that I will not be watching, and I actually didn't watch any of this weekend's racing live. So
Yeah. I mean, really, you
I
didn't miss
watched more
much
of the
outside the
F1
Cup
race.
race.
I watched more of the F1 race this weekend than I did of all three series of NASCAR combined
Blasphemy.
because I hate Vegas that much.
I mean, again, you really didn't miss much in trucks and Xfinity. Um, Cup was decent, and I would say you probably should have watched at least some of Cup. But
Oh, I did
yeah,
go
you
back
didn't
and
really
watch
miss
it.
anything.
I
Yeah.
did go back and watch
Well,
it.
you can watch it on NASCAR Classics soon, I'm sure. I see they already put up the Atlanta race on NASCAR Classics.
Okay, that one is kind of a classic finish, I guess.
It is, but I feel like they're overhyping it at this point. Like I literally see Atlanta everywhere now. They're
Okay,
they're
well,
literally using this as a springboard to say Atlanta is the best race on the schedule now.
when you go from that to Vegas, yeah, I would promote the shit out of that too.
Yeah, fair enough. I did
Just
like I
don't
saw a
look at this
meme this week.
Sunday. Keep going.
I did see a meme this week it was like three um apes or monkeys or something sitting on a couch, and it said new fans tuning into Vegas this week, and one of the apes was just like, where three wide finish.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
that's great. I hate Vegas so
yeah,
much.
right.
I don't even like
Yeah.
the I don't even like the F1 race at Vegas. I don't like the strip at Vegas. I'm not about that life. I don't like it.
Well, F1 at Vegas is its own monster. It's not obviously it's not the same track, but it's its own monster. Um, I don't think Vegas is capable of putting together a decent race at the moment. But it's a market that they all want to be in, so of course they are doubling down on it. Doc's over here shaking
Yeah.
off right
And
next to the
meanwhile, you
mic.
got IndyCar and Mid Ohio and Road America, and it's like this is much better.
Yeah. Well, it is, but they're also way out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. And
Yeah,
how many people do they actually get showing up?
a whole lot, but it's better
Mm-hmm.
racing.
Yeah. Um,
Money doesn't make
was
racing
it
better.
do what?
Money doesn't make racing better. The whole city of Las Vegas is proof of that.
It doesn't make racing better, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, these are businesses and they're going where the money is. And if they think they can get more money by putting on a bad race at Vegas, if the people show up, than they can going to middle of nowhere Wisconsin to Road America, then that's what they're going to do.
Wish we could get people to like boycott stuff like that.
You'd never get enough people to do it, unfortunately.
Oh, I know.
Especially not in this country. We're not. Is it France that boycotts everything and goes on strike for everything? Is it? I can't remember if it's France or Spain. It's one of those Western European countries. They'll literally go on strike for the smallest thing, but they get their way because they go on strike for everything.
No, not us, because we were. Gar's
Pause.
house is on fire.
Yeah, right. That's probably about all we've got to talk about for Cup this week.
Yeah.
Take a quick look at our picks for the week. Tyler has now taken the points lead in the Cup Series, 72-58, after my very poor showing with Chris Buescher finishing last and only gaining 1 point. And Tyler with a top 10 finish with Chase Elliott picking up 30 points there. So Tyler is at least leading in something now as we head into Phoenix, 3 races into the season. Before we get into picks and what's coming up this weekend, Tyler, I know you have some IndyCar and F1 stuff to talk about.
IndyCar, Dale Coyne finally put out their driver lineup. Jack Harvey and Nolan Siegel are going to share a car, and Colin Braun is going to be in the 51 car with Rick Ware Racing. Harvey's doing 14 races, and Siegel's doing 4. Colin Braun, I guess, from their press release, he's only confirmed for St. Pete and the sort of race event at Thermal. But that's supposed to be a full season car, so I don't know if he's going to race the full season. They just didn't say that or what. I guess we'll see how it goes. Rick Ware and Dale Coyne are both budget teams, so we'll see how that goes.
That tells me they've probably got somebody else signed for the other races, or they plan on signing someone else and they just haven't announced it yet.
Yeah, that, or they just forgot to say that it's a full season. I don't know.
That could be too.
And then it was kind of implied based on testing at Sebring, but Callum Ilott will drive in place of Dave Malukas at St. Petersburg. I think Callum Ilott's got a good chance to win that race in that car. He was with the Juncos last year, and those are not good cars. I mean, they bumped Alonso out of the 500 a couple years ago, and that's probably been the highlight of that team's existence in IndyCar.
Yeah.
It's not a good car, but the McLaren, obviously one of the top cars in the field. I think Ilott's a really good driver, and the Juncos cars just, that was not going to be a place where he could show that. We'll see how he does. I think he's got a good shot.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't really know enough about him or that team to have an opinion on that, so I will trust your word on that.
I can't wait to be proven wrong and look like a liar. Moving on to F1.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, right. Verstappen won by, I can't even call it a country mile. This is like way more than that. I think he ended up winning by 23 seconds, something like that. Leclerc finished fourth.
Even amid the Christian Horner drama, that team continues to stretch it on the field.
Pretty much. Leclerc finished fourth. I was disappointed with this until after the race. He had like really bad brake issues where like he hit the brakes and the car drifted to the right because the left brake just wasn't working. So I mean, fourth place for that kind of an issue is pretty good. And then we got the Red Bull stuff behind the scenes. Have you been keeping up with that at all?
Very vaguely. Bring me up to speed here because there's probably some stuff I've missed.
So Christian Horner had the investigation against him. The team said he didn't do anything wrong. And then like the next day, somebody emailed a whole bunch of screenshots of WhatsApp conversations between Horner and somebody in the team. They sent it to like media and all the other team principals and like the FIA superintendent and all that kind of stuff. So everybody's seen it now. Media outlets won't put it out because they feel like they're going to get sued by Red Bull if they do that, which whatever.
Yeah.
So basically, team says he didn't do anything wrong. Anonymous source posts all this stuff that very clearly did something wrong. And the team's official statement basically just says, "Yeah, we looked at it. He didn't do anything wrong. Goodbye." That's all it says. There's no like,
What did I tell you? That's exactly what they're gonna do.
yeah.
That is
There's
exactly what I said. As soon as they opened up their internal investigation, they're gonna look at this and just be like, "Oh, he didn't do anything wrong. Just let him be."
yeah. I mean, everybody called that one from a mile away, but now you
Mm-hmm.
got like some of the other team principals like Toto Wolff and Zach Brown. They're saying, maybe we should look into this a little more, get some transparency on this. And Red Bull's kept the position of, nope, it's fine. Um, but now Ford has, because they're supposed to have a technical alliance to build an engine with Red Bull for the next several years. Now Ford has
So are
said,
they dropping Honda?
yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah. Um, so Ford is going to be their engine supplier, but now Ford has said, hey, we want to see some transparency with this. And I think like their official statement said something along the lines of, it would be in the best interest for you to be transparent with us, your corporate sponsors, which is like a
Mm-hmm.
really corporate way of saying, what the dude? Um,
Right.
Adrian Newey is apparently unhappy with Christian Horner. I don't know if you know, but Adrian Newey is like one of the smartest car aerodynamics designers in history. Um,
Yes, I have heard
and
that name.
Jos Verstappen, Max Verstappen's dad, basically said that Horner's a terrible team principal and shouldn't be there anymore. Apparently, like behind the scenes, there's two like factions of Red Bull. There's the Christian Horner side, which is the corporate side, and then there's the Verstappen side with the Austrian branch of Red Bull. And I guess they've been feuding with each other, and now it's all
Hmm.
coming to a head publicly. Um,
Interesting.
and amid all this, Christian Horner just said, "Nope, it's fine. I'm good. We're all good."
Nice.
It's like, yeah,
So
you might want to
F1 is
figure
still
that out.
looking into this, correct? They didn't just let it go whenever the team came out and said nothing happened.
No, F1 never launched their own investigation. It was all Red Bull internal investigation.
Oh, I thought they had their own investigation.
No, that's why Toto Wolff and Zach Brown have asked the FIA to investigate
Hmm.
it, and they're in with Red Bull and said, nope, they're fine.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. So,
Yeah.
do we think anything is going to come of this in the end, or is Horner just going to stay? What whether anything happened or not, whether any of this is true or not, do we think Horner keeps his job?
Well, apparently most people thought that Horner would get fired from the Red Bull investigation.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he survived that, everybody's surprised by. And now that all the screenshots are out, it's kind of like there's something else going
See,
on that's not being said.
but that's the thing with the screenshots. Um, and we might have talked about this last week because I think those screenshots were out before last week's episode. Because they came out in testing, didn't they?
I think they came out like Thursday or Friday before the race.
No, that's right. Yeah, they came out when everybody got to Bahrain. That's what it was. Um, but I think we did talk about it last week. I have a hard time believing, and I'm not saying I don't think Christian Horner did this. Um, I have a hard time believing those screenshots are real, though. Just looking at how it was typed and the some of the things that he said, um, it just doesn't strike me as something a middle-aged white dude how he would type. Um, like auto capitalization off, spelling you as the letter U. I mean, things like that. It just seems a little off, and he doesn't strike me as somebody that types like that. I mean, now I could be wrong, but and again, I'm not saying I don't think he did this. I'm saying I don't think the screenshots are real.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from, but at the very least, I think this should be an FIA investigation, like an independent investigation, not Red Bull or F1 or anything, like somebody needs to look at this that doesn't have any ties to anybody and go from there, because it was obvious from the beginning Red Bull was just going to go, nope, it's fine.
Yeah. Well,
That doesn't tell us anything.
right. Now, I think there's one very simple way to prove if the screenshots are real or not. Christian Horner needs to show his phone and show us how he types. Does he have auto capitalization on? Does he spell U as the letter U? Like, if we can see there's a clear pattern with how he texts, and it doesn't look like how he supposedly was talking to this other person in the screenshots, then that would prove that the screenshots aren't real. Or maybe it would prove that the screenshots are real if he types exactly like that. That's what I want to see. Because
Garth
if the screenshots are real, obviously I think that's pretty damning evidence that he did do this.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time believing the screenshots are real.
Yeah, I don't know. The fact that we had a employee come forward and say something about him, then have the investigation, then have the screenshots come out after nothing happened, it seems kind of legit to me, but that's why I would rather the team not look into it themselves and bring somebody else in, because I mean,
well,
it's
right.
It's F1. They hide everything.
And again, I'm not saying that I don't think the allegations are true. I don't have enough information to know whether they are or not. I don't think any of us have enough information to 100% say whether they are or not. But I'm not convinced the screenshots are real, but I would like to see, because like I think there is one clear way to show if the screenshots are real or not. But the problem is I don't think Christian is going to give up his phone that easily to show that.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it, but
I
it could either be like nothing, like they say, or it could lead to the entire collapse of the Red Bull Racing organization. So I guess I'll just sit here with a box of popcorn and see how it goes.
Maybe that's why Red Bull's internal investigation came back saying that nothing happened. Maybe they did look at Christian's phone and see how he types and compared it to the screenshots, and maybe that proved that the screenshots weren't real.
My guess is that they looked at it, saw you did something wrong, went to the person that complained about it, gave him a settlement, and just moved on and said, nope, everything's fine. And then the other person decided to leak stuff anyway. That's probably what
Well, honestly, I think that's most likely also. I think that is most likely exactly what happened. But there's a possibility that maybe I don't know. People are going to say I'm defending Christian Horner here. I'm absolutely not defending Christian Horner. If he did what it is claimed that he did, he needs to be out and be nowhere near the sport ever again, and probably go to jail. But I don't know.
I'm all for it. I mean, I don't like all the legal stuff, but if it makes F1 more entertaining by Red Bull not being 30 seconds clear of the field, then sorry, buddy.
Right? Moving on to this weekend, we have 4 races this weekend. We have ARCA, Xfinity, and Cup from Phoenix, as well as IndyCar season opener from St. Petersburg. ARCA will be Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on FS1. There are 43 cars on the entry list for this race. 3 cars go home because ARCA's field limit is 40. There are a lot of cars in this race. Not a whole lot of competitive cars, but there's a lot of cars in this race. I don't know what else to say about this race, to be honest. A lot of cars, not a lot of competitive cars, as is the story with ARCA these days.
The battle for 12th will be intense.
Well, I think there's a very clear winner in this race. Given that Well, yeah, I'm sure you would agree because you picked him before I could. Given the fact that Venturini's flagship car, the 20, has Gio Ruggiero in it this week and not Jake Finch, I don't see Gio Ruggiero battling for the win. Now, yeah, the Rev cars might be up there. Like Andres Perez de Lara, LeVar Scott, they could give William Sawalich a good run for the win. But I find it hard to believe. Oh well. Everybody knew what your pick was. Calm down. I have a hard time believing William Sawalich does not run away with this race. Either way, let's make our picks for this race. Again, Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, FS1. Tyler, who you got winning the General Tire 150 at Phoenix?
William Sawalich. I mean, unless something bad happens to him during the race, it's going to be like Max Verstappen running away with NARCA wins. So,
yeah, I think you're probably right. I was going to pick him as well, but Tyler beat me to the punch. So I'm going to go with someone who I think has a good chance of keeping up with him and could steal this win if Sawalich has some issues. Or maybe the Rev cars are better this year than what I expect them to be. Either way, LeVar Scott is my pick this week. I think LeVar Scott picks up win number 1 this week at Phoenix. All right, as for the Cup Series this week, again, just Xfinity. Yeah, well, okay. Yes, I misspoke there. I meant to say as for NASCAR this week. We only have Xfinity and Cup at Phoenix. Xfinity will be Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on FS1. The call 811.com. Every dig, every time, 200. Tyler, who you got?
Oh, I wish I had somebody with a name that long. I'm going to go with Justin Allgaier. This seems like one of Justin Allgaier's better tracks. Seems like pretty much every time we're here, he's at least in the top 5 competing for a win, and I think he'll be able to get it done.
We go from the Xfinity race with the shortest name, the Liuna at Vegas, to the longest name, the call 811.com, every dig, every time, 200 this week at Phoenix. I'm going to go with William Byron. First start of the year for the Xfinity Hendrick car, the 17. I think Tyler's boy goes to victory lane and gets me more points than Tyler this week. How ironic would that be?
It'll happen. That or he'll just crash because it's my favorite driver in an Xfinity race.
That could be too. Cup Series this weekend. The Shriners Children's Hospital 500 from Phoenix. Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, so I'll miss about the first 30 laps again. On Big Fox, still on Big Fox. I wonder when the changed FS1 is. I feel like I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. Tyler, who you got for Cup?
I'm going to go with Joey Logano in the really mid-Hunt Brothers paint scheme. This seems like one of his better tracks. This feels like a Ford wins like all the time. Like Chase Briscoe won this a couple years ago, and SHR cars aren't very good. So I think that a Ford will break through with Joey Logano and be the first non-Chevy to win this year.
Well, he needs a good run. He's not had a good start to the season. So, and
he's qualified
I agree.
well.
I think this is qualified well. He's not finished well. But yeah, I think this is one of his better tracks. Though, am going to go with someone that this is also one of his better tracks. I think Kyle Larson goes back-to-back this week at Phoenix and picks up his second win for the season right after his first this past week at Vegas. All right, and then one final race for the weekend. That will be IndyCar on Sunday from St. Petersburg, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, Sunday, noon, NBC. Tyler, who you got?
I'm going to go with Pato O'Ward. I think he'll finally be able to start the season on a high note. I think he's finished second here twice at St. Pete. This is normally a Penske-dominated race, except for last year when Scott McLaughlin and Romain Grosjean crashed into each other after pit stop cycle. But yeah, I think Award's going to start it off on a high note this year for McLaren, and I really think McLaren has a lot of potential this year, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them win a lot of races.
Well, as you said, this has been a Penske-dominated race in the past. I'm going to go with someone that probably should have won this race last year. Is good at St. Pete, is good on street courses. I think old Scooty Mac wins this race. And yes, I am calling him Scooty Mac because one of us made a typo last year. I don't remember who it was. One of us picked him for a race last year and we were trying to type Scotty Mac and ended up putting it as Scooty Mac. So he will forever be Scooty Mac to me. Scooty Mac wins this week at St. Petersburg.
Well, if you say it like that, it almost sounds like Australian or whatever. Scoot McLaughlin.
That's right.
No, I think that's a solid pick. He won this not last year, year before. That was his first win in IndyCar. He probably could have won it last year if he hadn't decided to drive Grosjean into the wall. So, man, could have had 3 in a row, but he screwed it up last year. So,
well, he ain't gonna screw it up this year.
We also
start out the season with,
We also have F1 at Saudi Arabia this weekend.
I thought they were off this weekend.
Nope.
Oh, well, it shows how much I'm paying attention. Okay. Well, I picked Max Verstappen.
Okay. I also picked Max Verstappen.
Do what?
I also picked Max Verstappen.
Okay, fair enough. That's also a daytime race here in America. Saturday at noon.
Yeah, because it's a night race in Saudi Arabia.
Are they just doing all of their races as night races now?
The Saudi Arabian ones in the desert, yes.
Literally, I think last week I said that or 2 weeks ago, was the last week Bahrain?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm confused.
Why are you confused?
Because I literally saw a meme this week that said Lewis Hamilton will not be racing this week because there isn't a race this week.
There is a race this week.
Oh, well, I guess the meme was not correct.
The meme lied.
It did lie. I get all of my F1 news from memes.
Really, it's all you need to know is the memes.
That's right. Last week, I'm pretty sure I said that the race was on Sunday, which I thought the race was on Sunday, so I totally missed it and didn't realize that it was on Saturday. So I lied to everyone as well as myself last week, and you have my deepest apologies for that. I will endeavor to not do that again.
Denied.
Yeah, I'll probably do it again next week.
Yeah, you will.
Yep, probably.
That's how much confidence
I
have in you.
But I think that is... Do what?
That's how much confidence I have in you.
Oh, that's how much confidence I have in myself. That's going to do it for this week, though. Not a lot to talk about this week. I'm pretty sure we're under an hour this week. So, not one of our longer episodes, but I think we got everything covered that we wanted to. So we'll see you again next week. Same time, same place to talk about Saudi Arabia, St. Pete, and Phoenix. That'll about do it. So at that, I'm Garth. That's Tyler. This is the Rookie Stripes podcast on Racing News Now.